My name is Derrell Edwards. I'm the 20 Car Jackman, and my mother's fighting stage 4 lung cancer. I've been in the sport this will be my 11th season. Started off at Richard Childress for about 5 to 6 years, been here 5 years. My career's been, honestly, if I had to say one word, it's been like fast-paced, honestly. Seen a lot of success in it early, so I was a part of those, like, I've seen every gen, you know, from the 5-lug era to the 6-man era to the 5-man era to the 1-lug era now. Had some success along the way. I've won the Daytona 500 was my first win, so that's like the one that everyone shoots for besides like a championship. So for that to be my first Cup win, it was kind of like, where do I go from here? And that was early in my career, so now I've been kind of chasing like a Cup Series championship. This has been fun. It's been a lot of learning curves, ups, downs within the sport, but Joe Gibbs has been like eye-opening for me, meaning like everyone's got that winning mindset, winning approach to everything, and that's what I like. You know, you can feed off the guys around you because everyone's trying to be their best, you know, week in and week out to win races for Joe Gibbs. So it's been good. It's been a good ride so far.
Did you know anything about NASCAR before you got into the sport?
I knew nothing about NASCAR. My background was actually basketball. I played Division I basketball at High Point University, and that's all I knew. From 8 years old, you know, when your teacher would ask you, like, man, what you want to be when you grow up? I always wrote, you know, NBA player. You know, that's kind of all I knew. And then coming from Baltimore City, where I'm from, needed a out. You know, I needed some kind of scapegoat, and for me, that was basketball, like my whole life. You know, just dribbling the ball through the neighborhood of where I grew up. Guys looking out for me, like, man, he's going to go pro one day. So let's make sure we protect him, look out for him. But yeah, I knew nothing about cars. I met a guy named Richard Payne at Richard Childress Racing. He would always come to my High Point basketball games and talk about it, bro, you should be, you know, come check out this NASCAR world. I'm like, man, I know nothing about cars. How do you expect me to come into that world? He's like, no. There's like an athletic side of this thing called pit crew. And I was like, okay. So in my senior year at High Point, I was like, man, maybe it is time to hang up the shoes. And at this point in 2014, there was a lot of like wars and stuff going on overseas. And I was probably going to go overseas and play pro, not in the NBA per se. So I was like, man, maybe I should stay in my own country and go take this guy up on his offer and check out NASCAR. And it was something different. It was something that I never seen before. It was eye-opening, and it was still that locker room feel from guys, you know, working collectively for one common goal, and that was to do, you know, fast pit stops and win races. So took him up on his offer, did an internship after March Madness. For about 2 to 3 months, I would go to class and then I'd shoot right up to Richard Childress and practice, train, help those guys out. I mean, I was like a janitor, in my opinion, at that point. Cleaning tires, just doing whatever those guys needed at the time to show that I wanted to be a part of NASCAR once I kind of made a decision to hang up the shoes. So.
How do you think your teammates would describe you?
I think my teammates would describe me as a leader, first of all, a great teammate, somebody that's always gonna have their back. I try to make it contagious to guys of like, man, let's ride this, you know, fine line wave, you know, never get too high, too low, because it can change in an instant. You can have one of your worst races and then have one of your best races the next week. So yeah, probably a leader, great teammate, a guy that's gonna have their back and always gonna be positive and have a positive perspective or outlook on something that may be negative necessarily.
Talk about like how you heard about the program and what it is, what made you want to get involved.
Yeah. So Martin Truex does like a Cancer Hero program at a racetrack every year. It's kind of just, you know, taking a hat off to someone that's probably fighting any sort of cancer and who is basically just fighting that good fight. You know what I mean? It's something that, you know, they can't do nothing about or control, but they're continuing to fight each and every day, knowing that they're waking up and they're not able to do something, or, you know, and that's why I live by this saying, you know, I don't have to, I get to. I wake up every morning with that perspective. And yeah, it's just cool, and that relates right over to my mother, you know, finding out May of 2023 that she had stage 4 lung cancer. We were actually at Wilkesboro for the All-Star race pit stop challenge. And I got a call, went in the hall and talked to her. And she was like, son, you know, I know you got a big day. I know you do this thing every year, but I just wanted to, you know, let you know that I have stage 4 lung cancer. And right there, you know, I kind of shed a few tears and it was like, wow, like you just would never think that would happen to a close family member of yours, let alone your mother. I was kind of really emotional that day, to be honest. I didn't kind of tell nobody about it or anything like that. I actually used it as fuel, and that's kind of been like my whole life. Like I try not to make excuses like your upbringing or this and that, and with the cancer thing, it was the same thing that day for me. I was like, man, I'm gonna go out here and, do it for my mother. And that day we actually won the pit stop challenge, with the fastest pit stop. And it went well, it felt good. It was more like, it was like I knew I was gonna win it just because I had that motivation. And then it's funny because we go 2024 and we do it again. Because on that day, it just kind of strikes something in me like, this is the day I got that call. So I love what Martin Truex and his foundation is doing as far as that, because I feel like my mother is the epitome of a hero to me before she even had cancer. But her having cancer and fighting every day, hearing her, FaceTiming her, and seeing the struggle of her every day and not giving up, because she knows she got grandkids out here, her own kids out here. That's a hero in my opinion, because the easy thing is giving up, right?
Yeah, tell us more about like your mother as a person, what it was like for you and your family growing up, like the household dynamic, and stuff like that.
My household was great. I mean, you gotta think as a kid, you don't really see the big detail hardships that your family may be going through, but I do know we definitely had them. It was fun. I mean, Baltimore's a tough city to grow up in, so it brought its own, issues and stuff like that. But my mother always instilled like little sayings in me, and like that still goes into the day, honestly. Like if I post on Instagram and the caption, it's probably gonna be like a perspective base or a mindset base, just because she's always like, son, don't ever give up, fight, stand on what you believe in. All of those things that she instilled in me still sets the day. What I get from my dad is like that hustler mindset, that grind mindset, to get out, every day. Nothing's free in life, work for it. Besides all of the outside stuff, I mean, we didn't have everything. We had little actually, but as a kid, it felt like everything. It didn't feel like you were without, because you were just you was a young kid in this big world. And the way we look at things now as adults, it just didn't feel as burden or much weight on me at that point as a young age, you know what I mean? And it's funny because I got like this survivor's remorse all the time, because like I got homeboys that are still stuck in it, and I see them every day on like social media or whatever. And I'm like, man, I wish I could bring them with me, because there's so much world outside of Baltimore where I come from. At one point in my life, my mother and father both were incarcerated at the same time. I can recall a moment where I was like, it is kind of tough and this is weighing on me as a young guy, like where it wasn't like as sweet. And this was like one of those premier moments for me, was walking to my 5th grade graduation alone and being up on the stage, and you got 10 or 12 classmates and looking out in the crowd and you only see your grandmother. So that was a moment I could remember like, dang, like this ain't as sweet as I thought it was. And that's when it kind of set in. And you start waking up and like seeing like, I really do have to figure out a way to make it out or change that generational curse. And it starts kind of now. So that's like 5th grade where I'm starting to think like, what do I gotta do? But yeah, I just knew I had to keep playing ball. I mean, that was like, I'm like, this is it, I'm all in.
Now, like being a father and just like knowing how you grew up, knowing how your childhood was, and being successful now, like what kind of perspective do you have as a dad?
I have one 3-year-old Cameron, and I've got another on the way due in November.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. I got another boy on the way.
Okay.
Yeah. Having a kid gives you a different perspective on life for sure, because the things that was important to me at once, they aren't as important no more, because I'm not just living for myself no more. I'm basically living for my kids. Like every move I do, I know it's gonna have an effect on my family.
So how has your mother's diagnosis like weighed on your family? Do you think it's brought you together more, or maybe like put a strain on things?
It's actually brought us closer. We got a group text that we started about 6 months to a year ago, and it's crazy because, like I said, I'm 33 years old and we just starting a family group text. It's crazy, but it's definitely brought us closer. We try to talk each and every day. If somebody's not responding to group text, we're calling, like, what's going on? And it's also a burden. You wake up every day and you're like, for me, I'm not afraid of like, death or talk about death and stuff like that. So I'm like, is this the last FaceTime call? Those are some thoughts that I have. Is this the last text or call? Because you just don't know. I mean, it's stage 4 lung cancer. I mean, it's going to do what it's going to do when it want to do it. So just giving her reassurance, calling her, sending her pictures of my son, just trying to, because, as a grandmother, you want to fight for those grandkids. Like at this point now, you're like, I want them to, know who grandma is, and she said all the time, like, I just want them to know me. I want to be there, so on and so forth. It was one point, man, where I was going home like every Thursday and coming back Saturday and going to a race, and people didn't know. Mother's Day, like I went up there on a Friday or Saturday and came right back the same day. So like, it's been a lot, you know what I'm saying? But you just don't want to have no regrets, if something does bad happen of like, man, I didn't spend time, or I put work before my mother, or so on and so forth. So it's been a juggle, but everybody's feeling it in the family because she's the rock. She's the queen of all of us boys and sons and grandkids and stuff like that. But she's definitely showing strength, and that's hence to the foundation of her being a hero.
Talk about how you found out about this program for Daytona. What made you want to get involved?
You get to a point, it's been 2.5 years now, you get to a point where it's like, I can only say but so much. I can only do but so much. It's not gonna fix, the cancer. I was thinking about it with my father-in-law. He's actually the one that brought it to my attention, and he was like, man, we should do this. Like, this is cool, because you just don't know what to do when somebody's in that situation. Sometimes you barely even know what to say, because it starts to get repetitive each and every day of like, keep fighting, or how you feeling. I even tread lightly on asking her every day, like, how you feeling, because I'm sure she's hearing that from so many people, and it's like, I'm doing okay. It's been 24 hours, ain't much changed. She found out, she thought it was cool, because you gotta think, it's a big deal. We're a sponsor-based sport, we're a driven sport, so to replace, a driver's name for a race weekend and put, someone that's a hero fighting cancer on the car is like, I know how this sport runs, so that's like a big deal to do. In reference to the amount of cars that I did, I was at Richard Childress, so I believe I got Austin Dillon, Kyle Busch, Ty Gibbs, Chase Briscoe, Christopher Bell, all the cars. I have some type of tie to that car, or I was on that car or at that company. And then one car wouldn't have made as big of an impact, in my opinion. Like, no, I want it to be, she's a big time hero, and that's how her son views her. You know what I mean? Like, one car wouldn't have been enough for me. Like, because if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it.
So she knows about all the cars.
Yeah, she knows, and honestly, her reaction was kind of, she fought against it, because my mother's kind of like low key. She don't really want no attention. She's like, do I gotta be there? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, nah, man, you ain't gotta be there. But I'm like, it's a cool thing. She was almost like pushing against it, to be honest. But I'm like, man, I'm doing it. You deserve this. Like, the world should know that. Because it'll inspire some people, you know what I mean? Stage 4 lung cancer, when you first find out, 2.5 years later, you're still fighting it, and so on and so forth. Somebody else is gonna do the same thing, if not multiple people, so.
What do you want the viewers to take away from your story and everything you've gone through?
Use it all as motivation, let it push you to the next thing. If you still waking up and got breath in your body, you don't have to, but you get to. You know what I mean? That's kind of like the mantra I wanna kind of leave everybody in a perspective on things, like, I don't have to work out today, but I'm able to. I'm physically able, so why wouldn't I? I don't have to be nice to all the people I'm around, but I get to, so why not be? It's never over, you know what I mean? Fight the good fight, have faith, believe in God, and, life's hard in general already, so don't take it too serious, have fun and enjoy it, because it's short, super short, and it's not forever.
And if your mother is watching right now, what would you say to her?
We joke all the time. Thank you. Thank you for continuing to fight. Thank you for not giving up. Because it gives me that perspective. If I end up in a situation like that, is once again, like a child, I want to be like my mother. I want to fight it. I don't want to give up. That's the easy thing. So just thank you for being who you are and fighting it for us, not giving up, because that is the easiest thing, and we need you. You know what I mean?